Methanex Corporation is the world's largest methanol producer and marketer, with an extensive distribution system supplying approximately 1/4 of the world market. With corporate headquarters in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, Responsible Care is the umbrella under which we manage our safety, health, environment, and community programs that protect our employees, customers, and communities in which we operate. In this video, we plan to provide you with some of the key information that will help keep you safe while working around methanol. This includes specific characteristics of methanol, key risks associated with handling it, and some of the things you can do to minimize the chance of personal exposure, fire, or release into the environment, and how to manage the consequences of such an event. Methanol is used as a building block for many everyday chemicals and products. In fact, in the average home, there are numerous uses of methanol products. Derived from natural gas, methanol is a petrochemical comprised of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. It is a clear, colorless liquid that mixes completely with water and has a faint alcohol odor. It is also sometimes referred to as methyl alcohol, methyl hydrate, wood spirit, or wood alcohol, among other names. There are a number of risks associated with methanol due to its toxicity, flammability, and potential environmental impact. Methanol is poisonous. Exposure may occur through skin contact, inhalation of vapor, or by ingestion. Basic safety precautions to avoid methanol exposure include clearly mark containers of methanol and keep them closed when not in use. Never sniff a chemical to determine what it is. Never drink methanol. Always wear appropriate personal protective equipment for the task being done. Another risk factor of methanol is that it is flammable. Methanol burns with low flame luminosity. In daylight, it may be difficult to see a methanol flame at all. Heat waves rising from the fire may be the only visible sign of a daylight methanol fire. The lowest temperature at which the vapor above any flammable liquid may be ignited is called the flash point. Methanol's flash point is 12 degrees Celsius or 54 degrees Fahrenheit. This means that at temperatures below 12 degrees Celsius, there is a lower risk of igniting methanol. However, more precautions must be taken at temperatures near or above 12 degrees Celsius to ensure that the risk of fire is minimized. It is important to note that methanol has a self- or auto-ignition temperature of 470 degrees Celsius, 878 degrees Fahrenheit, the minimum temperature at which it will self-ignite and keep burning. Some basic safety precautions to prevent fire when working around methanol are: no smoking or open flames of any kind. Use explosion-proof electrical equipment and non-spark producing impact tools. Remember that methanol flames are hard to see. Keep all ignition sources away from methanol. Methanol can be harmful to the environment, but when considering its environmental impact, it is important to note that methanol biodegrades quickly in both soil and water. Methanol spills cannot be recovered from groundwater or surface waters, such as lakes, rivers, or oceans, because of its ability to mix completely with water. Methanol is toxic to plant and aquatic life. Although a spill's impact can be serious and immediate, it is limited to the local area relative to the size of the spill. It is possible to recover and clean up a methanol spill on land, but precautions should be taken to prevent the spill from flowing to a water source or sewer system. Remember, spill prevention depends on good handling practices and well-designed containment systems. At all stages of transport and distribution, methanol must be stored securely and handled responsibly. This preserves the quality of the product and minimizes the risk to people and the environment. Storage containers may range from large storage tanks to rail cars to barrels or cans for smaller quantities. The most common modes of methanol distribution and transportation worldwide are ship, rail, barge, truck, and pipeline. There are 3 levels of protection against methanol-related exposure, fires, or environmental effects. They are engineering controls, training and procedures, and personal protective equipment. Effective engineering controls begin with proper storage containers and transfer systems that are designed according to appropriate engineering standards and comply with all legislated requirements. The second control is correct selection of materials and methods of construction. In particular, large bulk tanks are normally constructed of welded mild steel. Third, large tanks and containers must have control devices, such as level gauges and pressure and vacuum relief vents, as well as grounding to minimize fire risks. In some locations, vapor recovery is also required. Tanks and large containers should have secondary containment, such as dikes or bunds, to reduce fire risks and prevent large spills. Finally, in confined areas or buildings, ventilation systems are required, designed according to approved engineering standards to keep airborne concentrations of methanol below permissible exposure limits. The second level of protection includes having correct systems and procedures in place and then training people to use them effectively. Workers must be trained to handle methanol in a safe manner to protect themselves and the environment. In addition, sound product handling procedures and systems must be in place at each transfer point. Methanol should be stored in dedicated tanks or containers that are clearly labeled to identify their contents. When transferring methanol from one container to another, dedicated methanol loading systems should be in place. Piping and equipment must be clearly labeled to indicate they are for methanol service. When not in use, the equipment must be protected from contamination. Non-dedicated systems should be cleaned, flushed, and sampled before being used to load methanol to ensure product integrity. For all forms of transportation, methanol vessels should be inspected for cleanliness and mechanical soundness prior to loading. Mechanical or contamination concerns should be resolved promptly and thoroughly before loading and embarking. Finally, after engineering controls and systems are in place, residual risk is addressed through the use of appropriate personal protective equipment. As with most chemicals, task-appropriate personal protective equipment should be worn when working near or with methanol. Gloves made of butyl or nitrile rubbers are recommended. Appropriately enclosed footwear is very important. A face shield and chemical splash goggles or eyeglasses with side shields should be worn when transferring is taking place. Even with the most stringent methanol safe handling practices, there is still a chance that an incident may occur that will affect people or the environment, so it is important to know how to respond quickly, responsibly, and effectively. Personal exposure to methanol can be life-threatening, so knowing in advance what to do is important. Do not get methanol on your skin. If you do, remove any contaminated clothing. Wash the exposed skin with generous quantities of soap and water, and seek medical attention if irritation occurs. There are no serious adverse effects so long as there is no repeated or excessive exposure to methanol. Avoid getting methanol in your eyes. If you splash methanol in your eyes, flush with gently running water for a minimum of 15 minutes, lifting upper and lower lids to ensure all surfaces and crevices are flushed out, and seek medical attention. Avoid breathing methanol vapors. If someone inhales methanol vapors, move the person to fresh air. Assist breathing if necessary, and obtain medical attention immediately. Symptoms of inhalation include irritation of the respiratory tract, headaches, sleepiness, nausea, confusion, and loss of consciousness. Never ingest methanol. If you suspect someone has ingested it, do not induce vomiting. Obtain medical attention immediately. Symptoms of methanol poisoning may take up to 18 to 24 hours to appear and include nausea, headache, abdominal pain, and visual disturbances. As a flammable liquid, any release of methanol can cause a fire or explosion hazard. Use caution when approaching a spill or potential fire situation, as flames may not be clearly visible. There are a number of ways to extinguish a methanol fire, but discretion and judgment must be used to determine the relative size of a fire. The most effective extinguishing methods are dry chemical powder, carbon dioxide, and water spray for smaller fires, and alcohol-resistant aqueous film-forming foam, or AFFF, for large fires. Water may also be used for both large and small fires, but methanol will still burn at mixtures of up to 4 parts water and 1 part methanol. Stay upwind from any methanol fire due to the inhalation hazards of methanol vapors and combustion products. If a methanol leak or spill occurs, it should be contained as soon as possible by creating mechanical barriers. This will help prevent it from entering sewers, confined spaces, drains, or waterways. For excess liquid or larger spills, try to maximize methanol recovery for reuse or recycling. It can be collected with explosive-proof pumps or vacuum equipment. If soil has been contaminated from a spill, remove the soil from the area as soon as possible. Small methanol spills on impervious surfaces should be cleaned up with a non-flammable absorbent, such as vermiculite or activated carbon. Methanol-contaminated materials, both sorbent and soil, should be treated as hazardous waste and be disposed according to local government regulations. People working around a methanol spill or fire should wear appropriate personal protective equipment. Non-protected individuals should be restricted from accessing the area. In summary, personal and environmental protection is the responsibility of every chemical handler. A company should take all possible precautions to avoid product spills or leaks and must educate their workers about the characteristics of the product they are handling. Some key things to remember while working around methanol are: store methanol in appropriate containers that are clearly labeled and secure. If a spill should occur, contain it if possible, recover what you can, and return the area to its original condition. Be cautious in approaching a spill, knowing that if there is a fire, the flame may not be visible. Choose the appropriate method for extinguishing a particular fire situation. Protect yourself with appropriate personal protective equipment. Handle methanol with care. And know how to treat personal exposure should an incident occur. Although this video has provided a general summary of information regarding practices surrounding the safe handling of methanol, it is important to obtain further detailed information from other sources, such as your local government and regulatory bodies, your supervisor or manager, methanol's material safety data sheet, the Methanex Methanol Technical Information and Safe Handling Guide, or by contacting your local Methanex office. By being aware and acting responsibly, you can be safe while working with and around methanol.